Hello everyone, and I'm Lori Radis with Paw Paw Designs, and today I'm going to do witch's shoes cutting file on a acrylic tumbler, and we're actually going to do glitter, floating glitter in the tumbler. So this one requires a little bit more supplies. So you're going to need a double wall acrylic tumbler, your vinyl of choice to do the witch's shoes cutting file. I'm using UV resin and a UV light to help seal the bottom where we're going to drill a hole. Vegetable glycerin and distilled water, or you can use baby oil. The baby oil will have a slower float. Some plastic cups to do the mixing of the glitter and to add some glitter into the UV resin. Your choices of glitter, I chose a chunky and a thin, or a fine glitter, because they will float differently, so it'll give you a little bit different effect. You'll want some gloves, and then like a stir stick, popsicle stick, something like that to spread the UV resin out on the bottom and to stir your glitter and UV together. I also used mica powder, and you'll see in the tutorial, I didn't really care for the look of it afterwards, but it's your choice and your tumbler that you're making. Some parchment paper to help us layer the vinyl, and then a syringe, or you can actually use the condiment containers from the Dollar Tree, and then a drill with a 1/4 inch bit. Okay, so yes, there is quite a few things here on this, but let's get going on making our tumbler. First thing you want to do is you're going to drill a hole into the bottom of your tumbler. Now you want to keep that hole as close to the edge as possible, because when you pour the glitter in, you want it to kind of fall, and your liquid to fall closer. And then Mr. Crafty Paws was really sweet and gave me a bit that he thought would help me out, but it was kind of a little bit more frustrating, so I actually had to change it out and get a traditional 1/4 inch drill bit. When you're drilling the hole, make sure instead of just pulling the drill out that you reverse out, because all those little acrylic filaments, well, if you redo the reversing, it will actually pull some of those filaments out, so it's not going into your cup. Otherwise you have to try and shake those out of the cup. All right, so then the next thing we want to do is we want to go and choose our glitter of choice. And I just have some holographics and some the leaves and things like that, and I'm mixing it all together. Important safety tip, there is such a thing as too much glitter. I didn't realize it was possible, but it is. So in this particular case, less is more to start out with, and you can always add more in. I actually put too much in to start with, and trying to get glitter out of the tumbler proved to be quite the task and things like that. So when you're doing your glitter, you want to kind of start adding it slow and everything else like that. I just was having fun mixing all my colors together, and then realized, yeah, it was way too much. So you know, always add. You can always add more in. It's very hard to take glitter out. Now once we have our glitter mixed up, now we want to get it into the cup. If you have a small funnel, it would work. The other thing you can use is pushing it in. One thing I thought of as I was doing this is the tapping method, and to get it in there. One of the things with the tapping method, it kind of get all over the place, and you'll see I kind of cut my hand trying to keep the glitter on there. What I could have easily done too is taken and created like a paper shield, glitter shield, and taped it around the one edge so that it would cut my glitter where I wanted to be. But I found it was easier to do that. Some people will use like their weeding tool and shove it down into the hole, and you can see here where I was taking my finger and shoving it in. So this is kind of where more the time-consuming spot is. And like I said, I did find that it was easier to do some tapping, and you can see glitter was getting everywhere. Now, one of the things I want to note when doing these tumblers, for some reason, this is an older acrylic tumbler that had been sitting here for a while and I hadn't used, and there might be some differences here, but it seemed like these walls were really thin. So you'll see that in the middle of it, I actually had another, it was a Mickey Mouse acrylic tumbler, and I actually grabbed that one, and it was a lot easier to get the glitter into it. So just be patient, because not all tumblers are built the same and everything like that. And the other thing I want to make a note of, and I might not have mentioned it, when you're drilling your hole, you want to be careful so that you're not drilling up through both layers. You want to be slow and making sure that you get just that through that first layer so you don't go through the second one. Okay? And you can see I was shaking it pretty good. And it wasn't, I was in the mindset that I was going to get everything in my cup into the tumbler. And it wasn't until afterwards that I realized, yeah, I used too much glitter. So keep that in mind when doing this, is that you kind of want to get your glitter in and shake it and make sure there's room for it, because again, this tumbler was really thin wall, so I did not need as much glitter on my tumbler. So it really ended up being more than just having glitter on the inside. And you can see here I was still thinking I needed more glitter and just kept adding more glitter in. But just kind of take a step back, look at it, and things like that, because you might not need as much as you think you need. Okay, so now let's prepare the liquid. I'm using distilled water and vegetable glycerin. And what I'm doing is I did a 50-50 type mix for it. And I put water in the 1 cup, and then I just added my vegetable glycerin into it. And then I'm just going to stir everything together. So again, I did a 50-50 mix. If you do more vegetable glycerin, it'll float differently, so keep that in mind. Baby oil is an option as well. And again, baby oil will have a slower float. So once you mix the two together, stir it up, and then I'm using a syringe and I'm just pulling in the liquid. And now I'm going to take the syringe and I'm going to add it in. And again, there was, like I said, this tumbler was a little bit not what I was expecting, and I was really kind of struggling it because one, again, I had too much glitter, and two, the walls were just really thin on it. And so it took a little bit, and when you're filling it in with the syringes or the condiment bottles, whichever way, an angle helps as well to get them in, because you want to create that air bubble. Okay? And you can always take a smaller drill bit and drill it on the other side to create an open air pocket to help add in those liquids and things like that. So you can see here as I was angling it, it was working a little better. But again, too much glitter. And one of the things when I do my videos is one of the things I would always strive for, and you'll notice as I'm doing these, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, because it's crafting. And you can have good days and bad days, and some projects work really well, and sometimes it's a learning process to figure out what works for you. Like shaking it and putting it down might work well for me, it might not work for you, but I'm just giving you little things that I learned along the way to help make things a lot easier. And here you can see I added the mica powder in. It was really, really pretty when it was together in the cup, because I'm like, oh, that'll be a cool effect. But when I started adding it into the cup, it spread around it, it wasn't as filling as I was hoping it to. So just keep that in mind. It was kind of cool. Maybe instead of orange, like maybe next time I would use like a translucent or something nice like that. Now, one of the things, and again, I'm going to be perfectly clear with you guys and transparent, is, as I mentioned right off the bat, I put too much glitter in, and it caused issues trying to get things in the cup. So then I had to work on trying to get glitter out, which is not an easy task. And I got some of it out, and part of the problem is I ended up using more of my vegetable glycerin. I ended up using my vegetable glycerin up on the other tumbler that I did. So I ended up, which kind of came into a cool problem, is that I ended up using baby oil. And it was one thing I had on hand, because my goal is always to try and use on what I have on hand. And so I literally then took the baby oil and started filling the tumbler. And again, it just gives a slower glitter movement. It's still cool and everything, it's just how you want your tumbler to look. So some tumblers will be really fast with more water and less glycerin. The baby oil will give you a slower float. So it's just the different types of looks that you're looking for. Now I mentioned earlier that I grabbed a different tumbler, and you can see here I'm using the vegetable glycerin, water, and mica powder mix, and you can see how much easier it is going into this tumbler. It literally, you can see the glitter is falling to the bottom, and you can see the glycerin water mixture coming up to the top and everything else like that. So you can see that float. So again, there's different tumblers do different things. Where I got that tumbler from, I think it was one of those freebies somebody had thrown into a box, and I grabbed it and used it. Again, trying to use what I have. So, but if you're getting your tumblers from somebody who focuses on selling tumblers, I don't think you're going to have the problems that I had with mine. But I just wanted to be clear on that. But you can actually see here, that's why I tilted it. One, I tilted it for the angle so I could get my fluids in. And two, I tilted it because I wanted you to see that it is going in way easier, and you can see my glitter floating. And then once all the liquid's in there, or as far up as you can get it, we're going to cover the hole and we're going to do a test shake. Okay, now once you have your tumbler with all your glitter and liquid in there, there's a couple of ways you can fill the bottom. Because I had it available to me, I used my hot glue gun. Some people have taken smaller little miniature glue gun or glue sticks, which I didn't have, and they'll fill it and then they'll cut off the bottom, and I wasn't going to go buy anything different. Some people have bought specific little plungers to fill in there. I used the hot glue gun, or you can just try using a little resin at a time to fill it in, and it was just enough glue just to kind of give me a coverage on the bottom. And then once that was done, make sure that you wipe everything off. And I should mention that before, make sure you wipe everything off really well with an alcohol pad, because you want to get any oils and things like that off of there. And then once you have that done, fill it in with your glue. And then what I did, and I did a couple of coats of this, is because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any liquid or any seepage going on, is that I literally then took my UV resin and I covered it over the bottom. I covered the hole up, and then I used my light, and I went through and I did that a couple of times. So I did a UV just over the hole very lightly, and then over the top, and then I went a little bit farther out. But one thing is important when you're doing whatever you're doing on the bottom, is you want to make sure that that stays flat for you, because you want to do a test flip over. Only do a test flip when you know you're sealed up, and you want to put your cup down on a flat surface to make sure that you don't have wobble. So you want to take that into consideration when doing all of that. Okay, and so like I said, then I took and filled it in with my UV, and then put it underneath the light. And so I did 1 to 2 first of all, just to make sure I had everything. And then what I did is, I'm one of these people that I just kind of didn't feel that it looked very finished, that I could see the hole in the bottom. And you don't have to do this, I just did it, is that I literally then put some UV resin on the bottom that filled the bottom, and then I took fine glitter and I sprinkled it over the top, and then I just used my silicone brush and spread it out. You can use your popsicle stick, whatever you have on hand. And then I just sealed over that with my UV light. And I did that, and I used my UV light a couple of times just to make sure that I had good seal and everything. But it just gave to me that extra level of security that I wanted to know that my tumblers weren't going to leak out all over the place. So you can see it just added that finishing touch. And if you still feel some glitter or whatever, this is where you want to make sure you're using fine versus chunky. And then I just put one clear sealer over it. So there, and the whole time I was making sure that my bottom is still staying flat. So you want to be, there's a fine line of how much you're using at that point. So you can see here where I just took my stick and I went over the bottom just to make sure that I was staying flat. So make sure whatever you're using, that you're staying as close to being flat on that tumbler as you can be. And again, I just hit it with my UV light a couple of times and went from there. And then once that was done, I then went through and wiped the side down on my tumbler with my alcohol pad. Where I'm going to put my decal, I wanted to make sure that that was, I had it clean with my alcohol wipe, and I set that off to the side so that it can dry. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to get ready with our decal. Now that we have everything sealed up and our cup is clean, let's go ahead and apply our witch's shoes. One of the things I love when decorating for Halloween is I love decorating with witch's shoes in the legs. I just think they're so funny and so cute. I guess a little bit of the Wizard of Oz comes out in me. Basically the first thing I'm going to do is, you can layer everything out ahead of time and then just put it down as one logo or as one image, or you can do it on the tumbler, whichever is easier for you to do. So I put the witch's shoes on first to make sure I had it where I want to go. And then I'm taking and putting her legs on. And you can use parchment paper to help line that up, or you can eyeball it, whichever way you feel more comfortable with. Okay, so I messed up her shoe, so I had to cut a new one because I didn't rub it down really well and it didn't look bad, so I had to replace the shoe. Again, transparency, it's crafting. Not everything it goes according to your plan. And just make sure you have everything rubbed down as you're pulling off your transfer tape. So once that's done and you have the base coat of the legs on, now we're going to add on the little pattern. And I gave you argyle and stripes, and one set is all argyle, one set is all stripes, and then there's a set that has one leg argyle, one leg stripes. I kind of feel it needs to be a little mix, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So I put putting that on and putting it on the transfer tape. And again, if you're having an issue trying to eyeball it and line it up, use your parchment paper to help you. I found that it was easier, and they should have lined right up, but I couldn't get my argyles to line up, so I did the stripe first, and then I just went back through with the argyle and laid my argyles down. And that seemed to work work well. And then once that was done, then I went ahead and put the buckle on her shoes. And there you go, you guys. How fun is that? Little witch's shoes on your tumbler. And again, they shake up really well and they look cool, and I hope you enjoy this. I also wanted to show you the other tumbler shook up. And again, you can see there's really different float on there. Again, the orange one has the mica powder in there and the glycerin and water, and the other one was the baby oil. So it really comes down to choice at that point. Thanks for joining me once again. Again, this is Lori Radis with 12 Paw Designs. Check out the blog, check out my shop, and we will be back with you with our next tutorial. Thank you.